Yo, welcome back guys. Today's video I'm gonna show you how I created this realistic looking short video by using Blender. If you guys haven't subscribed yet, go ahead, subscribe, like, and turn on the notifications. Start from modeling. No, I just got it from a sketchpad. This is belong to Mr. Umar Khan. Thank you Mr. Umar Khan for this beautiful model. Once the model is ready, I immediately go to the resin process. This is very important because it will be useful for the animation process. I sped up the video because the main point here is that I'm trying to add a ridge for this character manually for each part of the body, and I'm doing my best to prepare it for animations once the environment is ready. And of course, this resin process we need to involve something like inverse kinematic bones to make it easier for the animation process later on. But believe me, I'm not expert on this one as well. After the resin process is complete, I proceeded to create necessary animations for this character. For instance, in this fork model, I will prepare several separate actions, such as walking for use in the upcoming scene, jumping to make the frog hop, and we can create as many actions as we need. I only made a few, like including looking around, looking up and down, and so on, just based on what is required here. That's it. The next process is the environment. Here I just created the environment using a mesh plane, then sculpted a bit to form the small water flow area. Since our concept is to create a medium-sized environment and to keep it running smoothly on the device I use. As you can see, I also use a geoscatter to add grasses, moss to the environment, and I also adjust the color of the ground and the scale of the texture just to match what I wanted. Then I continue by adding more moss to the ground. However, I prefer to use a manual scatter mode because I think it's easier to control where we want to scatter the vegetation on and just keep everything organized. And in the process itself, it's very important to always refer to a real life references as this will help us place grasses and other plants correctly in their places. And I will switch to the render view on the references to see if it matches the references and also admit my expectation. Just keep looking around and also back to the process and adding more stuff here. Just added much vegetation to the ground to make it look more natural based on the references we have seen from various sources. Since I use manual scatter here, it's easier for me to determine where I want the plants to go and to arrange the space for easier to the main character to add on later. And if you have if you haven't added like geoscatter, you can still use a free options like geoscatter and assets from a plant library that are free to use as well. But since I already have both, I also use a botanic add-on. This is what I'm using in every project. Back to the process. I also included some bushes to make the vegetation denser because we are creating a medium scale environment. That's why densifying the vegetation is very important so that we can see through the camera view due to empty spaces in the corners of the vegetation that may be caused by the lack of added assets. Also, at the edge of the small pond, I added plants that are typically found at the shore, but not too much to keep everything on the right places. In the area where I will place the main character, I will leave the ground empty and clearly see the main character, and also duplicate the area, selected and duplicate the area where I want to place the main character, and also adding more detail because this is the place where I'm going to do a close-up shots, and so we need to add more the displacement to see it more detail for the grounds, and I just adjust the level of to suit my needs. And as I mentioned earlier, always based on the reference so it can bring more realism to my render. And also when I see that the ground texture is too desaturated, I tweak a little bit, adjust the value for the ground so it not looks that much blacky. And then I keep adding more and more as like a medium size of the grasses to the scene. I also add my main character here, and just to tweak the environment strength lighting, the exposure to match what I wanted to. And after everything done, now it's time to go to the water texture. So for the water, I want to animate to make it look like it's flowing. So I just combining a noise texture with a wave texture and just uh, tweak the weight and the value. Just animated the value so it looked like the water flow is animated, like it's water simulations going on here. Now for these animations, I just added a curve to make my main character follow that curve. And in this process, I need a little bit more of patience because I need to match speed and distance between jumping, and also keep my main character collide with the ground. But if you guys think there is another easy way to do that, just let me know in the comment. Now for the final touch, I just add a little bit more asset like small grasses. I just put it in place where I feel it's less dense here. And also I add another layer for the dead leaves here. I just put it around my main characters, but this time I'm using a high resolution asset because we are going to make a close shot, so everything will look more detailed and not pixelated. Now after everything, I just switch to the render view and just look around just to make sure that my vegetation was placed naturally around my environments, and also to see the environment light bouncing on my scene. I think this is very good. I also switched to the between camera, especially to my main camera view, and tested with the pop inside to adjust my environment lighting till I like it. And I think this is pretty much it. And as you can see, after all this process, and tada, this is what I've came up with, bro. This is what I'm looking for, guys. I'm really happy with this result. As you can see when I'm moving around, those vegetations look so natural. This is amazing, I think. That's why we need the real life references to scatter those vegetations. Because we want to achieve this kind of vegetations, this kind of environment looking. That's it, guys. Just always based on the real life references. And now I'm ready for my final render. Now enjoy the final video.